All right, so I am here and delighted to be here with you guys, Chris and Olka. Thank you so much for being here today with me.
Hi.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. And yeah, I just wanted to have a really casual conversation with you guys to, since you have gone through Connected and you went through together as a couple, and you are now officially Connected graduates. Woo. I feel like we should have like, graduation hats or
I
something.
know.
Cap and gown.
um, I just wanted to touch base with you and let you share a little bit about your experience so that we can hear what it's like to go through Connected and be on the other side of it as a participant. I mean, I can talk about it all I want as the person who leads the program and who is, the cheerleader for everybody, but it's really different hearing it from people who've gone through it themselves. So I just want to make this super casual and start off by asking you sort of the big question, which is why did you even join Connected in the first place? What made you join up?
I think for me personally, I have a challenging child, and I found that no matter what I was trying, I wasn't getting through to her in the way that I wanted to and that I felt good about. So there was a lot of yelling happening on my end to get her to listen to me the first time or second or third, or just kind of, I felt like she was at an age that if I didn't make a change quickly in the way I parented, that our relationship would go like this and not on the same path. And so for me, I needed to do something because I just didn't feel right.
Yeah. And what about for you, Chris?
I think one of the biggest reasons that I agreed to do the training is just like Olka said, there has to be a better way. That I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of yelling. So like I'd learned through the course, unless you've got other tools in the toolbox, that's what you're going to default back to. So when Olka approached me about joining the training, I kept an open mind and was excited about the different things that we learned through the program.
Yeah, I was
as recently as this morning, Olka had to tell Maya something 6 times, and and she was calm and steady all the way through the 6th time. Whereas in the past it would have been after the 2nd or 3rd or 4th there would have been yelling already. So it was awesome to see that the steadfastness in the training taking hold.
That's awesome. And even just the way that, you have sort of a levity about it now. You're like,
right,
you're a challenging kid. And like, sometimes it takes 6 times of repeating, but it's with a different, it seems like a different input to me. There's not that like tense and that heaviness and that quality about it. Yeah. Absolutely. Do you mind defining, because, when I use the word challenging, I use it to mean a lot of different things for people. And so some people, don't always know what I mean. But when I talk about challenging kids, I mean kids who just don't have the easy temperament, and so they can be strong-willed, or they can be defiant, they can be spirited or feisty, but they can also be anxious and shy. Can you describe your daughter's brand of challenging a little bit?
I think the one thing that we learned from the consulting that happens before you join Connected is we were able to identify that our daughter has a very high pain threshold. And that's very true. And I just didn't understand how that translated in the way that we communicate with our daughter. So
she can be defiant if she feels that we don't have her best interest in heart. She can be, she's the kid that is not going to intuitively follow the best choices. She is going to play in the gray area as much as she possibly can. And she likes to, if you tell her we shouldn't run, then she'll ask if skipping and hopping is okay. Like, she's just one of those kids who's like, well, I know this is supposed to be black and white, but maybe there's a gray area that I can try to figure out. So she's just one of those children where I have the second one, I can tell her this is what needs to happen, and she's just going to go for it. So for me, challenging is being able to, for a child that you just know that this is what they're supposed to be doing, but they will try everything in their power to not. that's kind of where, we were struggling. I'm very, I came from a culture where you just did what your parents told you to. And it was just really hard for me to have a child that I would ask something of, and I know she can hear me, but she just chooses not to. And how do I connect with her so that she understands that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so speaking of how that question, that's the essential question, right? Is like when you've got a child and she's so smart, right? And so clever, like all of that stuff is part of her temperament, and you don't want to crush that out of her, right? You want to guide all that because it's going to serve her so well when she's older. But when you talk about staying connected to her, given all of the buttons that she's pushing in you and all of the stuff that she's bumping up against and you guys are bumping up against in your own background with your own parenting experiences and your own cultural backgrounds, what would you say were the results of being in the program? Well, first, let me back up a second. Like, where would you say you were when you started? Like, what was the level of pain that you were in, if you can?
I was at a 9 or a 10. I had just gotten to the point where I looked at him one night and I was like, we cannot keep doing it this way anymore. We just cannot. And for me, I was at a 9 or a 10. I would say now that I'm done with the program, how I feel about it, do I still consider challenging? I think yes, like your program taught us, she will always be challenging, but I embrace them. And I am able to now show empathy, understand where she's coming from, and put myself in a 7-year-old shoes, almost going to 8, and say to myself, well, this is really important to her. And I am her instructor. I am teaching her. I'm not, the discipline is not, you're going to do what I say. It's let's talk about why we are going to do it this way, or let's sit down and really try to understand. I get where you're coming from. Maybe you can understand where we're coming from. And there's some middle ground to it. And I don't feel like I'm that stressed and tense and feel like I need to control her behavior, but more as I am now her teacher, and I am here to help her understand why, while my role is also to understand why she's doing it the way she's doing it, but that this is the reason why mommy and daddy are saying this to you, or this is what we are trying to get you to understand.
Yeah, that's incredible. That shift from you have to do it my way and I'm going to control to let's, like you just used the word let's like 4 or 5 times in describing that, which is a really different perspective. What about for you, Chris? What was the sort of level of discomfort or pain or any worries that you had when you first started? Like, where were you at that made you?
I think maybe essentially I was probably in denial at maybe like a 5, but it was probably a lot worse than that for sure. I think for me, I have a hard time, kind of relating to Maya and Priya as little humans with feelings and being able to have like a conversation with them and talk about things, because I was raised in a very dictatorship environment, and pre-class that's how I was raising them, in like a dictatorship, like you're going to do this or else, or just in very just short fuse, whereas now it's a conversation, and a very patient one. So
that's so awesome. And just for people who are watching this, they might not know what you guys mean by the numbers, but something that I asked people, and when I asked you in our first conversation, your level of pain, the numbers that you were giving out was on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst pain, like can't go on anymore, and 1 being not pain. So yeah, you guys were pretty high up there at the beginning. Thank you for sharing that stuff with us. And can you talk a little bit about, for somebody who, like, I try to put myself into somebody's shoes who's really struggling with their parenting, and, they don't know what to do. So they can relate to what you're saying. Like, they don't want to parent the way that they were parented, and they're trying to do things differently. They don't know how. But they're like, how do I know this program is going to work? Like, what are the results that people are going to have from doing something like this? Because it's a commitment, right? Like, it's a commitment of your time. It's a commitment of your energy. There's a financial commitment that's involved in doing this, right? It's not for the weak of heart or the faint of heart, right? And any transformation, anytime we want to change, requires a commitment to change. Mm-hmm. So, I would love for you to share what you have noticed as change in your family as a result of this, change in how you feel? You just talked a little bit about how you have changed your approach in parenting, but like, what's the outcome? Like, how would you describe it to somebody who really is kind of like, what is this? Like, what is this program?
For me, I am already a type A, very tightly wound individual. And so for me, it's like things have to run a certain way. And there were many times that if Chris had to be away on the weekend for 4 or 5 hours or something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? Because they just stress me out. But yesterday was a perfect example. He had to go deal with something and he was gone for 3 or 4 hours, and it was so peaceful. Even though I had a meltdown with the youngest and she's like throwing herself on the ground, I wasn't stressed. There wasn't a part of me that was like, I cannot wait till bedtime. I am so done with this. I can't do this anymore. I've even, I think, said before that bath time used to be like, I get so stressed and exhausted about it and didn't want to do it. It's towards the end of the day and you're already tired. And now it's, it's just such a pleasant, peaceful experience in the home, even with meltdowns and even with everything. And I think it's just because I feel so much more grounded and confident and calm in knowing that if I do the work that I learned in the program, everything's going to be okay. Yeah. And I think having that sense of understanding and all the aspects I've learned and pulling different things in different moments have really, when you do the work, it does work. And I think that to me has made the home life just peaceful and enjoyable.
That's so beautiful. And, you're a confident person. I knew that the minute we stepped on the phone together at first, but I feel like there's a different level of confidence that you have now around the parenting piece of you. Like, you're a kick-ass businesswoman. You're like, taking names at home. Like, you're totally in charge. Like, I'm like, whoa. Okay. And that's amazing. And I relate to that level of like efficiency, but when we're so used to being in charge and in control and like kicking ass in so many areas of our life, and then like the parenting thing just isn't there, it can really shake our confidence. And what I've heard from you is a shift in like, I got this too. Like, I got all that and now I got this too. That's what I hear from you when I hear you talk.
That's absolutely correct. That's exactly how I feel. You are right. I've got my career down. I can do 5 different jobs at one time and everything's great. The parenting side was the big question mark. It was the stressful one because for whatever reasons, I didn't feel like I was doing it to the level that I could do everything else. And now I feel like I can, and it's about the work. It's a different kind of work, but it's about the work. And I definitely feel like so much more confident and calm. And, even Chris saying that, she said it 6 times and she told Maya 6 times, and I didn't even feel stressed about it. I was like, I'm not even gonna, I get it. The first couple of times she was helping her sister do something, she went in one ear out the other, whatever the case may be. But there's no way it would have gotten to the 6th time before because I would have blown up by 2nd or 3rd. But today I was like, it's fine. If it's 6 times, she'll listen at some point to what I'm telling her.
Right. There's such a steadiness there. I love hearing that. What about you, Chris? What about the results that you've had? Because you came into this, with your own experience.
No, I think you do a good job of vetting people before they come out. You have to have an open mind about the course, and you have to put in the work. It's just because they sign up for your program, it doesn't mean that you're going to see results. It's just like you've even equivocated to like a gym membership. You can pay, but unless you get in there and you do the work, you're not going to see the results. So, and I think for me, maybe it just kind of reverting back to the denial issue. We were powering through raising our kids and communicating with them, but in my gut, I felt like there could be a better way. I definitely felt that. And in 6 months, we were able to accomplish that.
That's awesome. And you guys really did do the work. Like, I can see when people are doing the work. I have my ways. And I know you were. And so that's why you have gotten the results that you've gotten. There's no secret, right? Like, you can join a gym and you either show up and go to class or show up and do the work, or you sit at the front and you have your latte. Both people are members of a gym, but like, who's going to get the results that they want, right?
Well, I think you do a good job of trying to hold people accountable as well. I mean, there were several times you were like, where is everybody? What's going on? Like, you need to put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. But kick your butts. I've got to kick people's butts. Otherwise, like, I'm not a trainer, So what are you guys most proud of? And I want to hear what you're most proud of.
Well, for me, I'm most proud of just being able to, change the way I think about Maya and Priya, and that they are little people, and they have feelings, and they have opinions now, and their little personalities are coming out. And I do feel strongly that had we not taken the course, like, Ulka and I would have suppressed the person that Maya is trying to be, because she is such a strong personality. And it makes me really sad to think that, if we hadn't found your course, that we would have just kind of quashed, her independence and her, her strong will. And, like Ulka had said earlier, the youngest one is not like that at all. So we've really got like this as polar opposite as you can get in terms of, their personalities we're dealing with. So it can be very challenging when you've got, one that does everything you say when you say it first time, and then the other one you've got to literally say, tell her 6 times. But we found that, when we communicate, as long as we're communicating from a loving place and be patient with them, that they come back around. Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things for me too, that helping an understanding of your course was just before the girls go to bed, it's, they used to just get so amped up and they were just bouncing off walls, and we're ready to tell them to go to bed. I didn't understand that was part of, the separation that they're having. And we learned that in your course. So now when it's time for bed and they're bouncing off the walls, we understand where that's coming from now. It's a separation of wanting to be with their parents.
Right. And you have tools to then work through that, right? Like, I don't want people to hear, well, your kids are still bouncing off the walls and your kids are you have now a toolkit to work through those and get to the other side with them, right?
And an understanding where it's coming from.
And an understanding, which allows you to stay connected through that.
Right, exactly.
This is not, sometimes people ask me, well, what do you use? Do you use that program, that program or this program? And I'm like, this isn't about like changing kids' behavior course. It's really about changing parents' behavior course.
Exactly.
Kids' behavior often shifts along, but challenging kids they came to us that way, and they're going to stay challenging. And the trick that I'm trying to help people learn is how to deal with them in a way that just feels dignified.
Yeah.
And connected for everybody. Awesome.
For sure.
And who would you recommend the program for if you were to?
I would recommend the program for anybody that feels like there could be a better way to communicate with their kids. If you feel, and in your gut, there can be a better way, or, my kids are challenging, I would just encourage them to have a conversation with you, that initial conversation, because you're not here to waste anybody's time. You're there to, help people that feel like there can be a better way, and help them understand and communicate better.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
And I would say that it's being busy, that your course was actually, my biggest hesitation was I am busy. I volunteer at the schools. I've got a corporate job. I've got 2 businesses. Like, there's a lot going on in my life, and nanny schedules and all of this. I can't add another thing. But I have to say that you have added your course is doable. It's very doable no matter how busy you are. And whether it's the summaries on Friday, just a minute or 2 of reading during the day, or your twice a week coaching sessions, they are doable. Did not feel like it was a strain. It did not feel like it was an additional task that I had to add to my list of things to get done in the week. It was, and I think that as you see the rewards of every training session or email or whatever work you put into it, it makes you want to keep coming back and learn more and soak in more information and try to do better and try to learn more. And I think that's what, for me, I think the proudest moment is the fact that I took those weekly trainings and I tried to incorporate it, and I tried to take from it something. And every time I did, every single time, I felt like there was a positive outcome on the other end. So it was worth it. It was worth that extra step or the learning of every tidbit. And I think that, you know, you go through a lot of courses and there's a lot of information and you don't know what to apply and what not to apply. But I felt like the way your course was set up, it was very easy to digest and apply if you are willing to put the work in, and truly committed to putting the work in. You will absolutely see the results.
That's so awesome. And so, yeah, like a couple of minutes a day of reading, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And Olga and I are extremely busy. I know she kind of touched on that, but and maybe some people that are interested in your program may have reservations about, you know, not having enough time to be able to do the course. One, it's flexible, but two, you know, you make time for things that are important. And you know, if you can spend a couple minutes a day, learn new tools and techniques to help communicate with your kids, your program's super flexible. You know, you can make that time for something that's important.
Totally. And I set it up for busy parents, you know, because I know everyone's got a long list of have-tos, you know, and I do not want the program to feel like it's, you know, a drag or, you know, something that people can easily put aside. Because if you're facing a really long email, for example, or, you know, facing a long conversation with somebody, you're like, I'm going to push hold on that, you know, I'm going to push pause on that, put the folder for later, for the never to read later files. So I totally get that. So I'm really glad to hear that that worked for you, especially considering how busy you both are. It's awesome. Anything else you want to add?
No. I mean, there aren't enough words in the world to say thank you. I mean, I think our family life, and I told myself I was not going to start crying in this, but I think our family life it's just so much better. It feels so peaceful. It feels so calm. It feels so fun. And I mean, our youngest just turned 5 today, and I'm like, you know, like, it's just like they're growing up. And I am so glad we did the course when we did it, because the challenging kid will be turning 8 in February, and you're not going to get this time back. And the foundation that we're setting now for when they go to college, and it just feels so good in our house right now. So I can't thank you enough for what you've done for us, because it has been amazing.
Well, I will say this too. It's not just about how you communicate with your kids as well. I think our relationship is a lot better as well, the way we communicate with each other. And also, you know, because we come from such, you know, different backgrounds being raised, I think we've found a common ground in your course, because when two people are raised differently, your tools are different and your common ground is different. Your experiences are different. So I think this has given us a good solid foundation. You know, it's not like my parenting is better, or your parenting is better. Hey, you know, this is based on the research, and Lainey presents all this information to us. This is our common ground. And now that we've got common ground on the way we raise, it's been fantastic.
Awesome. Putting you guys on the same page. That's something that most couples struggle with, and you guys are just light years ahead of where you were, and where I hear people struggling all the time. How am I going to get my husband on the same page? And Chris, you've done an exquisite job coming on board with this. And Olga, you know, you're just a kick butt woman, and I knew that from the beginning. But the added factor of you guys having a common language, and you can shortcut and shorthand with each other and go back to the trainings. You know, of course, they're yours forever. And as your girls grow, well, I'm still here for you, of course, but I'm always there for you. And it's just things that, you know, it's like a good book. You can go back and read it again and again, and it will serve you no matter how old they are. Because it's really about human relationships, and all the stuff, you know, about how to communicate better with your child, you can use with each other too. And I know that you guys have benefited from that as well.
Well, I'd say the other one last thing that I think is very important about your course too is the self-care aspect, right? Especially women. I mean, they just work so hard day in, day out. They're so selfless. They're taking care of the kid. They're taking care of the house. They're taking care of everything else. And a lot of times they forget to take care of themselves too. So I think just that word self-care and just implementing it. I mean, even for me as well, it's been life-changing just to be able to say, hey, you know what? You can take a few minutes to yourself. You can you don't, just because you become a parent doesn't mean you got to sacrifice everything that, you know, used to be fun, or your identity, or, you know, your hobbies, if you will. I mean, it really goes a long way if you invest a couple hours in yourself doing the things that you love, how you're able to bring it back home, or even just taking naps or whatever it is that's important to you. I mean, it goes a long way for the whole family, and not just you.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you raised that too, Chris, because I think now self-care for women, certain women of a certain, let's say, demographic, that is kind of like a thing. Like women know, right? They're like, oh yeah, self-care. And just because they know up here doesn't mean they're actually doing it. But for men, I think they're the new group of people who are like, wait, what? What do you mean by self-care? What is that thing? Fairly new to the dads, especially the dads out there, so worried about mom being taken care of. And if mom is doing a great job taking care of herself, which is hard to do and doesn't happen enough, from where I see it. But so self-care is crucial for mom and for dad, for both parents when there are two parents involved, for sure. So, and I was so glad to hear you talk about that, that's just like a life-changing, who knew?
Right.
When you're raised to believe that, you're being selfish if you're going to take time for yourself. You're selfish if you're going to put your needs first for a few minutes or for a day, or you're going to take a day off. You're selfish. And the idea that self-care isn't selfish, that it's actually essential to then come back and be nourished and be energetic for your kids is pretty radical. Pretty radical where I come from.
Same here. And I mean, to identify it, like to understand it. We were at dinner on Saturday night and I was like, looking back on it, like admittedly, I take everything on because of my culture, and the woman does everything in the house and blah, blah, blah. And Chris is a workhorse. Like if I ask him to do things, he's going to do them and he's going to help me out. And I need to lean on that a little bit more with the kids part of it, and be okay with, hey, you've got him for an hour. I'm going to just go do yoga and I'll be back. And he's happy to do it. Yes, absolutely. I've got him, go. It's just, I was taking it all on because I felt guilty if I, as the mom, was not there every minute of the weekend. Not realizing that time once I'm done from yoga is actually way more quality time with the kids than me just plowing through a weekend of trying to spend time with them. So
totally. So good. So good, you guys. I can't tell you how proud I am of you, and how delighted I am that you joined the program, that you trusted me, that you bought in, hook, line, and sinker, and you did the work. And I just am so, I'm like proud of you. And I hope that feels okay on your end.
It feels great. It does. I have 3 graduate degrees, and I have to say graduating from yours means the most to me. So
to me. Thank you so much for your time in doing this, and we will stay in touch.
Perfect. Thank you, Lainey.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.